Boy, screws loose, they done stripped the bolts on them. Shoulda never sent them to pick up the work for me. Sprayed the park and had my shit inside the car. Marcus Smart boy was shooting with a 36 on him. Said if he wasn't in the rush, they was all goners. Tech cursive on the chest, he was gonna Sean John them. They was sleeping on the god.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Chuddy's Corner. I'm your host, Ben Handler, aka King Chuddy, joined as always by my good friend and co-host, Nick Perrano. Nick, how we doing?
Still reeling a bit, but doing pretty well.
Yeah, seriously. So Nick is, of course, referring to Game 1 of the Celtics Nets series, which was won by the Celtics in truly epic fashion on a buzzer-beating layup by Jason Tatum. The smoke still clearing from the area right now as we're recording. It's Tuesday, April 19th, just about 2:15 on the East Coast. Game 1 wrapped up, about a little under 48 hours ago, and Game 2 is tomorrow, Wednesday night, back in Boston. So we're kind of smack dab in the middle. We've had a couple days to process what happened in Game 1, and I'd say are we ready to turn the page and move on to Game 2? Is that fair?
No, not yet.
No. Okay, great. I am all about that.
Too much unpacking to do.
A lot of unpacking. Some people seem a little upset about the NBA schedule that we have this much time off. I'm letting it all soak in. This couldn't be better. If we had lost, if we had missed that final shot and lost, I think the time off would be killing me. I'd be dying to get back out there. But as it stands, I'd take a week off to soak in that Game 1. So, a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. Of course, you can find the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Just search Chuddy's Corner. Listen to the show, follow, like, subscribe, write a review, whatever you want to do. We love the engagement. You can also get at both of us on Twitter. I'm at King Chuddy. Nick is at _Nick Perrano. There's a show Twitter at Chuddy's Corner for all our episodes, all the blogs. If you want to just streamline it, that's the easiest way. Or, of course, you can go to nickperrano.com, nickperrano.com. Right on the homepage there, you'll see the link for the blog, Chuddy's Corner, and you can find all the blogs and podcasts there. We've got a great comment section, a lot of interaction, blogs about all things going on around the NBA, lots of Celtics focus. You'll get a recap of every game. And, of course, you can find all the podcasts there along with video. And of course, you can also get all your real estate needs there. It's one of the predominant crossover sites, real estate, MBA out there. Can't think of any more off the top of my head that are doing it like us, Nick. I don't know about you.
Oh, we're the only one. We're one of a kind.
There you go. So if you're looking to, you can't decide if you want to kind of do a deep dive into some Celtics breakdowns or shop for a house, I can't think of a better place to go.
Agreed.
All right. Anyway. Getting into it, let's get right into it. Of course, we potted the other day, both dug deep into the series, made our predictions. Since then, we've seen Game 1 play out. It had a lot. Like you said, there's a lot to unpack from one game of basketball, 48 minutes. The Celtics, of course, ultimately did win Game 1, 115-114. I'm not even going to try to describe the play. If you haven't seen it by now, I can't believe you're listening to this podcast, but Tatum lay in at the buzzer to win the game. Celtics are up 1-0. Where do you want to start, Nick? What's your kind of overbearing thought from Game 1? What's your first reaction? What's your takeaway? All that.
So the takeaway, I think, would be, as we talked about in the last pod, this was kind of how the game shaped up until that last play. Obviously, it was kind of what my fear was, that, like, as we talked about in the last pod, where it was like, the Nets kind of mucking it up on defense and, making it somewhat hard to score. I mean, it wasn't like they shut us down, but, they made us look a little bit sloppy at times. And then at times we looked great because ultimately they're not a good defensive team, which was, what we expected. But,
yep.
Playoff ball, the refs kind of swallowed the whistle at times. It was pretty physical.
Not in the first half.
I mean, the refs didn't swallow the whistles. So it was a physical game, and it was kind of what I was hoping to avoid. Because if the Nets could have some resemblance of defense and, slow us down a bit. That was kind of my fear because, even though we're a great defensive team, the Nets have two unbelievable, offensive powers. They're going to score points. And then another aspect of it was, close games were kind of our Achilles heels all season, even during that stretch, this calendar year. And we got to that point into the game where it kind of almost looked like it was playing out that way. And I have the game on right now, and it's the final play of the game. Here we go. Marcus, pump fake. Tatum lays it in. Unbelievable. All right. Now I can focus. So, yeah, late game.
Quick aside, how many times do you think you've watched just the last play? Give me a realistic number. Where do you think you're at?
I'd say at least
all angles count.
Every 2 hours, maybe, since the game.
Yeah, I'm probably around the century mark. I would say close to 100 times, maybe more. I don't know. It's hard to say, but it's been a lot. I can't scroll by it without stopping to watch.
No, if it pops up in my feed or someone sends something, I watch it, obviously. And then sometimes, does it count if you watch it twice? Like the same clip twice in a row, like back to back?
Oh, yeah.
Or is that just one view?
No, okay, so every view counts.
All right, yeah. So I'm definitely getting up there.
Yeah,
not quite century mark like you, but
okay, you'll get there.
Yeah. But yeah. So, anyways, it was like late game when it comes to clutch last 5 minutes. There are probably not too many people that are better at getting their shot than Durant and Kyrie, and they hit big shots. So that was kind of my fear. It was getting a close game. Last 5 minutes. That kind of, it kind of showed. We almost didn't pull it off. So, we'll get into my takeaways for next game, but that's pretty much what I take away from the first game.
Okay.
And obviously, that last minute heroics, and at times we looked great, at times we looked, somewhat overmatched at times, but I think it was, the fact that we pulled it out was a series changer for sure.
Yeah, hard to argue with that. Interesting. A lot more negativity than I was expecting. Which I don't hate, and I don't disagree with what you said. I'm just kind of surprised you went that direction.
It's not. I didn't want to start out. Everybody's obviously, reeling
jubilant
from and it's like I am too, but I wanted to at least start out with, because it's not like we won that game, running away. It's like we played.
I get it.
It was a tough game. They played us tough. It was the game, panned out as like almost my worst case scenario. So I figured that's, I wanted to touch on that first, and then
totally
we can get to the good stuff and then what to expect.
No, I wasn't saying anything was wrong with the take. I was just surprised, kind of, I guess. So I guess I'll speak to that first, because there's a million places you could start, and there's a lot of different angles you could spin this towards. So we'll just keep going in the direction you went, because I think that is important. And I think if you're trying to stay grounded and be kind of realistic and cautiously optimistic, that was the most important thing we said going in, and we saw it basically the worst case scenario right off the bat. The Celtics built a 15-point lead, and then halfway through the fourth quarter, it was gone. Celtics were down 5, a 20-point swing in a matter of about 12 minutes, mostly in the fourth quarter. That is, like you said, that's what we all feared. That's the worst case possible scenario, and it happened. Right there, game one, it felt pretty bleak. You had the play where Durant kicked it to Irving as Smart was kind of going over to help on Durant. Tatum didn't shift up. Kyrie hits an open 3 to put the Nets up 5 with, I think, just under 5 minutes left, I want to say. And you saw Smart and Tatum kind of yelling at each other. It was timeout was called, and it was like, oh boy, it's all unraveling. They're yelling at each other. We're down 5. The Nets can't miss a shot. We can't score. Blah, blah, blah. That was all the worst things. Now, if you want to go the other way, it was hard in that moment not to be thinking like, great, here we go again. We had a 15-point second half lead. We just blew it. And now we're looking at losing game one. All the awful feelings sinking in. We've seen that Celtics collapse a million times, but This time it didn't happen. We came right out of that timeout. Jaylen Brown hit a huge three on that possession to get us back within 2, which that play is kind of, I mean, there's so many plays to focus on, but that one right there, like I said, coming out of that timeout and down 5, it felt like everything was falling apart. He hit that shot, gets it back to 2, and then it was basically a one possession game or tied back and forth the rest of the way. Without that shot, it might just all slip away. But again, it's kind of, that clutch time. It wasn't so much the clutch time. It was the first half of the fourth quarter and the very end of the third where things slipped away. Then in the actual last 5 minutes, the Celtics responded and did what they had to do. It started with Jaylen hitting that 3. Jaylen made a few huge plays. And then obviously it gets to the situation where we're tied. We were kind of going back and forth, being down 2, tied. We had a chance to take the lead, but with a minute left, Smart with a great drive, probably got fouled, misses the layup, but everyone kind of committed to stopping him. Al with an easy cleanup. He lays it in, ties the game, a minute left. Nets get the ball back. Smart battled through the switch. He was not letting Kyrie get off of him that play. Kyrie looked around and kind of was like, oh, well, that's all cut off. He said, I'm shooting. He pulled up, drained it right in Marcus's eyes. 43 seconds left. Nets are up 3, timeout. Painful. I mean, one of those like, what can you do moments. I mean, that's what you want. We had our guy on their guy, didn't give him anything, and Irving just drained the shot. He was going nuclear. It happens. That wasn't like it was a breakdown or anything bad by the Celtics defense. It happens. And again, it's one of those situations. Oh, great. After all that, there it goes. Celtics call timeout. What do? They come out of that timeout. Great play by Jaylen, again, scoring, going for the 2-for-1, pushing the pace. He saw that Durant and Claxton were both engaged on the perimeter, took Bruce Brown right to the basket, easy lay-in. I mean, what did that possession take? 6 seconds out of the timeout. It was like that. And then the Nets get the ball with about 35 seconds left, up by 1. Celtics have, I mean, I can't go through every single one in my head, but that's got to be on the short list for their best defensive possession of the year. I mean, Smart was down in like a sumo wrestling position, almost blocking off Kyrie, was not letting him go anywhere. And then Al came over to help. So he took away even that kind of like spin around fadeaway. It looked like Irving was trying to kind of go right through the middle of the lane and do a jump stop fadeaway. Al and Marcus were not letting that happen. Kicked it out to Durant. Tatum does an unbelievable job staying with Durant and contesting about as well as you can in today's NBA without fouling. Durant still almost made the shot, but back rims it. Horford with the big rebound with 13 seconds left, and then boom, boom, boom. I mean, I've referenced this in my blog and on Twitter, but it kind of like encapsulates the whole Celtics season, how things have swung and with the team they've become. Where it starts with Horford, pitches it immediately to White. White takes 2 dribbles, sees Brown up the floor, swings it to Brown. Brown attacks, draws help, doesn't force it, swings it over to Marcus. Marcus obviously pump fakes, draws 2 guys in the air, gets into the lane. At that point, it's basically a 4-on-2. He had a wide open kind of mid-range shot he easily could have taken, would have been a great look. Makes the extra pass to a cutting Tatum, lays it in. I mean, it was basketball nirvana almost. All 5 guys touched it, made a quick, immediate decision that was the right decision, leads to, about as easy of a look in basically the perfect amount of time. So again, the Celtics on their three final possessions scored and kind of executed perfectly, gave up the 3 to Irving, but again, not much you can do about that, and then played amazing defense the next time down. So I agree with everything you said, but it was different because in the actual crunch time, in the actual final minute, when everything was on the line, the Celtics rose and played their best. And that's kind of the difference where, like we said, we've seen it a million times, but last season, beginning of this season, the big lead starts going and then there's just no stopping it. The avalanche happens. I mean, if this game happens in early January, December, that's probably a win by 12 comfortably. The Celtics don't even put up a fight once they lose the lead. So to battle back and kind of overcome that almost worst case scenario might be, I hope maybe that's kind of a turning point of like, this isn't the team we are. We don't blow leads. We took your punch right in the mouth and we punched back and got the win. So I get all the things you said and they are scary and I don't want to keep seeing that, but the fact that they overcame that tremendous adversity and then put together the final minute or so that they did, final few minutes really, to battle back and ultimately win the game, to me was just an incredible achievement and something that hopefully, they can build on and becomes kind of a positive and a defining moment for this team where, we're not just these front runners who either beat teams by 25 or lose close games. We can do whatever has to be done, and we can pull it out even when things aren't going great.
Yeah, and like you said, as adversity is kind of something that we've been talking about, for probably a while now, where it's because, that's the only thing you can kind of say is this
You
year
win by too much to face adversity.
Yeah, right. So like we haven't really experienced it, and maybe the handful of close games, the last few months, we have struggled in the last 5 minutes closing out. So I think that's kind of was the biggest
Right.
question mark for us. And then we got to that point where, the ultimate adversity, we're up by 15. Nets bring it back to, tie it up and then take a 5-point lead. And we managed to, battle back, get it close, keep it close, which I think, shows a lot of growth is like, you might lose the lead. And then, like you said, Celtics of earlier this year, last year, we'd probably lose by double digits. We'd be hanging our head and, not know how to, keep it close. But we kept it close, even though we lost the lead, and then executed down the stretch. And then you kind of see, how, how the Nets, what they did in that last play, in contrast to what we did in the last play. It's kind of like old school, not old school, but like the last 10 years or so, where it's like, last play of the game or crunch time play, give it to your star, let them dribble, move around, try and maybe draw two, give it to someone else, or just take a tough shot.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's kind of been, how teams have done it the last, for a while now, where it's like, we saw it with Tatum the last few years where, he can hit those shots like most of the superstars, but it's not fun to watch. I mean, when they hit it, it's like awesome, but
Right.
I don't think you can
It
really
doesn't lead
argue
to high percentage shots.
Yeah, I don't think anyone can really argue honestly that that's the best play. And you saw how it worked out with, the Nets. We pretty much, I'm sure that was, we knew Kyrie was going to get the ball, and I'm sure that was part of the, what Ime was saying was like, hey, Kyrie gets the ball, Marcus, stay glued to him, and Al, or if it turns into someone else, put the clamps on him, make him give up the ball. Because I mean, Irving can make unbelievable shots without any space, but he may not see the cutter like he did with Bruce Brown. He may not see that guy. He wants to shoot it and hit the shot. So that was the right play. And then they figured he'd give it up to Durant if he didn't have anything. And you got to look at Tatum, who, I'm assuming he was like, yeah, I'll take Durant, which he did for a lot of games, and he's a lot of the game, and he was confident guarding Durant one-on-one, which just shows his kind of, his growth as a defender and his confidence. And like you said, he played about as good a defense on, as he could have on Durant in that play and for most of the game.
I mean, really for the whole game, you did give him so much credit. And I think that's one of the few storylines that isn't being discussed enough, which, look around the media and anywhere that the NBA is covered, and you can hear pretty much any storyline from this game. And there are many, but the one I haven't heard enough is how, everyone's just saying Durant struggled, blah, blah, blah. He won't play like that again. He won't miss that many shots. Like, how about giving Tatum and the Celtics as a whole some credit for the way they defended him? Like, he may not have another game shooting that poorly, but again, he got beat up from the jump, and he can make tough shots, but when he's shooting, how many of his 24 attempts do you think where he was being suffocated? Like,
and that's just like the people are saying he's not going to be that bad. He's not going to shoot whatever low percentage or be that inefficient, but it's not like he has to have a terrible shooting performance like he did. I mean, he still scored 23, so it's not like we held him to 10 points, but
23 points on 24 shots.
You got to make him
what you want if you're the Celtics.
We can make it tough on him every game. Like we can make him work for every basket. It's not like,
and that's what they did, and that's what there's no reason to think the Celtics won't keep doing that.
Yeah, I mean, he might, even if he scores 35 next game, it's like we're still gonna play tough on him, and he's gonna have to work. So it's like,
Yeah.
you know, I get what people are saying, but it's not like, you know, it's not that cut and dry. And then
No,
just
for
to get
sure.
back to like what we were talking about with, you know, that last play for the Nets, and then how you mentioned how it's like, you know, perfect basketball, Celtics ball you like to see that we probably haven't seen in a while, where, you know, all five guys touch it, move it, you know, move it around side to side, front to back. It was like, it was perfect. And
Yeah.
that kind of just shows like the, you know, where the Celtics are, and, you know, what I assume Ime has been preaching. It's like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
Tatum ultimately got the ball and scored the point. So it's like your best player, your superstar, scored the game-winning bucket, but, you know, it wasn't in the way that you see traditionally. And
No.
that was just great to see. And, you know, nobody on the team really, you know, it wasn't like you could tell everybody would have taken the shot. Nobody was afraid of it, but, you know, they wanted the
Right.
best look. And I mean, they wanted to win the game. And I think that's kind of what you could, especially
Mm-hmm.
what you heard from people after the game. I know it's hard to, I mean, I know it's easy to, you know, talk the talk after the game, how, like, you know, you do whatever it takes to win, but it really kind of seems like they just, you know,
Mm.
they just really wanted to win that game. And they
Yeah.
played, you know, they played like it, and they came through in the end.
Yeah, and one more thing on the final sequence too. I've kind of propped everyone up already, but also throw in Udoka for not only kind of empowering the guys all season as the way he has, but for not calling a timeout there.
Yeah, huge.
And recognizing kind of that the Celtics had an advantage, and that with pushing it up to Jalen quickly, we kind of had them on their heels, and we were kind of like a step ahead of them offensively. So no reason to call timeout and kind of give up that advantage and let the Nets sub. I mean, they add in Dragic obviously wouldn't, they would have put in their defensive guys basically for that last possession. So again, great job by Ime. I thought not calling a timeout, easy to say with how well things worked out, but I think it's all kind of tied together. And I mean, also the thing is, like, you keep saying extra pass, and it really was because they swung it to Jalen. When he passed, there was maybe 4 seconds left in the game. He had Dragic on him. It would have been a tough contested shot, but like he easily could have powered that thing right to the rim and maybe drawn a foul, maybe made a tough shot, maybe missed, whatever. But like, I don't think anyone would have been devastated or blaming Jalen for taking that. It was still like a solid look. He swung it out to Marcus. Marcus probably caught the ball with 2.5 seconds left. Like, no one could have blamed him if he did pull that three. Then
Right.
after pump faking, like I said, he had basically a wide open elbow jumper. Like, that's about as good of a look as you can hope for in that situation. So I don't think anyone would have really faulted him if he didn't take that. And then he obviously passed, and we got the highest of percentage looks, but it's like, it's tough to be mad at anyone. And if you go back and watch all the angles, like when Jalen first drives into the lane, he could have hit Tatum for a pretty good look at a three too. Like, there were options there because we were kind of moving so quickly and the Nets didn't have time to recover, but it is just great. There were so many kind of ways that could have gone that would have left me at least like not disappointed, and to just kind of get the best possible outcome is really, really great. And again, can't give enough credit to basically everyone involved in the sequence.
Yeah, and Ime definitely would have got, you know, if that play didn't work out, Ime would have been hammered, obviously, for not calling a timeout, because, you know, that's pretty much what you do. But
Yeah.
I definitely, you know, it was definitely the right call. And for
And
all the reasons,
realistically, if he calls a timeout, what do we get? Tatum ISO or a Tatum pick and roll, which
right.
again, not that that's a bad play, but we're probably ending up with a mid-range jump shot for the game that maybe has like a 45% chance of going in, which like, again, isn't bad, but like, it's clearly inferior to what ended up happening.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, that's the reason why it was so, you know, why it was so obviously the right calls too, because we were preaching even before the series started that we need to run. We're going to need to run to get. We need some easy buckets.
Mm-hmm.
And this game, we scored 50 transition points. I think 21 fast break points. I mean, when we ran, you know, we were dominating.
Yeah,
And
which we got away from a little bit. I want them to
yeah,
run
which we
more.
got. Yeah,
But
we did got.
they came out, you could tell that was a focus the first even 5 minutes of the game. Like, even off made baskets, Smart was sprinting the ball up the court.
Yeah.
I think our first basket of the game was off a make. Smart sprinted it up across half court, bounce pass to a backdoor, cutting Brown for a dunk. It was probably like a 3-second possession. It was like,
Yeah.
okay, Ime gets
And
it.
when you have a team that's not good defensively, you get them in transition, you're gonna get your best opportunity. Because I mean, even
Mhm.
bad defensive teams, if you come out of a timeout, you know, they, you know, put people where they're supposed to be. they can, lock down for, 16 seconds or whatever. They can play, 10 seconds of good defense and, make you take a tough shot. So, I mean,
Right.
we got, that was our best opportunity, I think. And, it obviously worked out. And also, too, that layup by Tatum was not like a gimme. I mean, I know
No.
it was ultimately was a layup, but
Yeah.
he
No,
caught the ball,
spinning,
immediately spun.
probably got fouled.
Maybe.
By
But
Irving.
regardless, it's like
Yeah.
a
No, it was like a
spinning
circus layup.
layup is not, I mean, I guess for, NBA players and people as gifted as him, it's probably not that hard. But
no, in his first few years, I'm not sure he makes that.
No, and I mean, he probably could have done like a little bit of a, I don't know, a little bit of a euro, but I guess in,
I think he also probably knew he was running out of time and wanted to release it as quickly as possible.
Right. So regardless, he made the right move. If he ran into Kyrie, probably an offensive foul, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe.
So whatever. In the heat of the moment,
I don't know if the refs are getting out of there alive if they call.
I know. I mean, that's the thing. Is like I don't know if they could call it, but
don't give him the opportunity. Don't let him.
Right.
Don't let Zach Zarba decide the game.
All right. So it was that split second. He made the right call. I mean, that was about as good as it gets.
It was.
So yeah, I mean, I think obviously the play was set up by Jalen, Marcus, even obviously Al getting the rebound and immediately going to the outlet. Derek White gave it up to Jalen. I mean, we all saw what happened. It was just everybody did what they were supposed to do, made the right pass, and it just was perfect execution.
It was. Yeah. No. It's beautiful to watch, truly. Hard to be more pleased with the way the game ended. That is for sure. All right. Any more kind of macro takeaways from game one, I guess, not focused on how the game ended, but maybe more bigger takeaways from the first 3 quarters and beyond, I guess, basically everything up to the final 5 minutes.
No, I mean, I think the bench wasn't great, which was, obviously masked by Al and Marcus's offensive performance and defensive performance. So, we got away with it, but I think we're going to have to get the bench a little bit more involved in the second, game 2, which I know we're going to get to. But, and obviously Tice struggled a bit defensively, didn't do much on the offensive end. So, I mean, I don't want to get too, negative because it was a good game, but I think these are kind of things that we're going to have to talk about for game 2 adjustments. But other than that, macro takeaways, I think we kind of hit on it all.
Yeah. So I mean, I had a few, and they're kind of tied into what you just said. Tice, I thought things went fine as the game kind of started. I mean, the first quarter it felt like everyone was cranked up to like a level 12 out of 10, and things were just insane. And the refs called 18 fouls, the most in any quarter in the NBA all season. So I don't know if the players were just that amped up, the refs were that amped up. Maybe they kind of knew how intense things were going to be and they wanted to set the tone early. We've seen that before. And kind of, as you mentioned, those calls were not happening in the fourth quarter. So it was a very weird start to the game, kind of tough to process. I think it went all right, but I think as the game went on, it became more and more clear that I'm not sure this is going to be much of a Daniel Tice series. I mean, I think they'll still start him and at least keep him in maybe when and if Brooklyn plays Andre Drummond, but the Tice, especially kind of on the defensive end, I mean, on offense, they're basically just leaving him alone and daring him to do whatever he wanted. And on defense, they just started attacking him. It really started with Goran Dragic. He was just getting downhill. They were going at Tice again and again and ending with layups or kind of open mid-range shots. And there's not a lot the Celtics can do there. So I think, they'll try to still steal some Tice minutes maybe to start each half. But, I wouldn't be surprised if this thing goes long, if he's really not playing at all. Just kind of amplifies the difference between him and Rob for all the talk about how well he's filled in. And he has. He just, has certain limitations, which Rob Williams obviously doesn't. And it seemed like the Nets kind of figured out that when they had Drummond on the court, they had no chance. He hurts them in similar ways, even to a greater degree, obviously. But if the Nets are just going to scrap that and go small with Claxton or Durant at the 5, I think it's going to be tough to play Tice really much at all. So that's one.
It's unfortunate because, I mean, Tice is overall a solid defender.
No, it's not really his fault.
It's just a tough matchup for him. And like you were saying, when, he playing on the switch, when Kyrie or whoever got switched on him, he let up a lot of, easy buckets. I mean, that was just the guards that they have between Kyrie and Dragic. I mean, they can score. If Tice, goes under the screen, Kyrie or whoever is going to pull up. I mean, if he goes over it, I mean, they're going to, they can blow by him, especially Kyrie. So it's a tough matchup. Obviously, Tice can't stay with Durant, and I don't know. So he's obviously not going to be.
Well, it got to the point where whoever, I mean, they were hiding him on Bruce Brown or, trying him on Claxton, whatever, but they were just putting him on action every time in the pick and roll and just going right at him. Right. So Tice was dropping, doing what he does, but at the end of the day, I mean, it's kind of what got the Nets going, especially what got Goran going. It's just tough. Like you said, It's just a tough matchup thing that I'm not really sure how to counter that other than not playing Tice.
It's going to be tough because we don't have a ton of other options. I mean, I guess Grant is the only other big really. So it's like, we're going to either have to play Al and Tatum and Grant, 40 minutes or, Tice is going to at least have to take, 10 minutes, 12 minutes or something to fill in the gap until Rob gets back. I don't know. I mean,
we'll see
what they do, but
like I said, I think he'll still start, and I don't know. I don't know that the Nets aren't going to completely bury Drummond. And if they have Drummond out there, that's fine. Like, Tice can play while Drummond is on the court. I just don't think it's going to be a lot.
Right.
And I think, it's the playoffs. Tatum is going to have to play 40 plus minutes. Al is definitely going to have to play 40 plus minutes, especially until Rob gets back. Like, it just is what it is. That's the playoffs. These guys are young. I mean, Al's not that young, but, be grateful we got all this time off between games because we're going to need Al. He played, I think, 41 minutes. I think Tatum played like 45. We're probably going to need that kind of effort every game to beat these guys.
Yeah, luckily, Al hasn't played much the last couple of years, so maybe we.
Yeah.
In reality, he's a 33-year-old.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he looked spry. I mean, take a second to talk about Al. Seriously, if you want to talk about positives, 20 and 15, you can talk about the numbers were there. He was just dominant on the glass on both ends. His defense, I mean, he was incredible. He switched on to everyone out there. He was hounding. He was doing multiple switches in the same play, containing Kyrie on the dribble and then switching to close out on Seth Curry in the corner. He was on Durant. He was everywhere. Like, he did not look like a 35 Al Horford. That looked like peak Al Horford, playoff Al. Like, geez, hard to not kind of go over the top talking about how incredible he was. And the Celtics needed all 41 minutes of it, and he's going to have to keep doing it all series. But
yeah, that's pretty much Al at his best. And
he was keeping them in the games at times. And I mean, he was, for a lot of that game, he was the best guy on the court on both ends. He hit his threes when he had to. So many putbacks on the offensive glass and just everywhere on defense. He was unreal.
Yeah,
Unreal.
I think too, I mean, it's pretty much implied, but we're not winning the game without Tatum, Marcus, Al, or Jalen, I think, which is team basketball at its finest. I mean, those are obviously your four best players have to play, generally have to play well to win, but you take one of them out of this game or one of them plays, average or below average game, and we're not winning this game. And it was like, they all did different things that contributed to winning. I mean, they all scored a little bit, which we needed because the bench was, not really producing offensively. But, Tatum played great defense. Marcus played defense. Al played great defense. Jalen played great defense. He had 4 blocks. I don't know, 2 blocks.
I think he had 4 steals.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was like, everybody, they all played defense. They all played, offensively when they needed to. It was like, it was just, we weren't winning if one of them had an average game, I don't think, is basically what it comes down to. So it was team basketball at its best.
Yeah, I thought, Horford and Marcus played about as well as they can play on both ends, which isn't to say I don't think it's repeatable. Like I think they can consistently play that well, but yeah, they did pretty much everything right. Tatum, I think, was the best two-way player that the whole game. I mean, you combine offense and defense, he was the best player on the court. I thought, even with, as hot as Kyrie was at times and whatnot. Already talked about how he essentially shut down Durant. Not, no one's shutting him down, but he defended him amazingly well all game. His offense, I can't say enough about like the way he just let the game come to him, because I mean it was clear they were trying to shut him down from the go. And what do you have, 7 assists in the first half? Like he was just reading the defense, making all the right passes, not forcing anything, and just that's like almost a sign of a true superstar in a playoff game like that, letting the game come to you. He didn't press at all. He wasn't forcing it, and sure enough, things swung. It came around, and he got going, and he still ended up with his 31 points to go along with 8 assists. But just the fact that he can come into the game, not get frustrated, and kind of use that to the Celtics' advantage is so impressive, where you see some of these other stars who don't have it going, and next thing you know, they got a 2 for 14 first half, and they're just trying to anything they can to get it going. The fact that, everyone's known how good of a scorer Tatum is, but that he can control the game in that way, not care that he's not getting his numbers, and he knows he's that good of a scorer. They can do anything they want. He's still going to get to 30 by the end, but to be that patient, to do it that efficiently, and to impact the game so positively in so many other ways, it all just speaks to the complete player he's become and how impressive that was. Then to touch on Jalen, I think, I agree. His defense was really good for the most part. He was incredible, maybe their best player in the last 5 minutes. And, they don't win that game without his crunch time contributions on both ends, no doubt in my mind. But I thought for the first 3 quarters, he actually kind of left a lot to be desired. I didn't really love the way he was playing on offense at all. And I think that's kind of one of the biggest things that needs to change going forward. And again, I think as well as you mentioned, the bench not scoring. I think Jalen, although he ended up with 23, it was a slow start. I thought he missed a lot of shots around the rim, where it seemed like he was kind of just forcing it, driving right at guys, expecting a foul, not getting it. He missed a few bunnies. Then when he's trying to adjust, and he really just kind of wasn't taking advantage of the matchup. We talked about how much they were hounding Tatum. Well, I mean, that means Irving or Curry or someone like that is trying to guard Brown, and I think we just have to be better about attacking that from the jump. Jalen's been missed a first quarter this year. That's kind of been the Celtics thing. He's usually the guy who comes out, sets the tone. He did that in the fourth quarter, but I'd like to see him kind of establish himself more in the first, really punish the defense if they're going to go sell out to stop Tatum, because they just don't have that many good defenders. And, we kind of go down the list. If the Nets want to play all these great offensive guys, we can't let them off the hook. And I thought the Celtics did that too much, especially at the beginning of the game, where, you're letting them play Seth Curry, Kyrie, Goran Dragic. Our personnel, like, if we're going to let them do that, play that small and play the guys they want offensively, we have to make them pay on defense. And I just didn't think we did that enough. I was a little disappointed with Jalen's kind of approach and execution in the first 3 quarters. And then he obviously more than made up for it, but I wouldn't say he had a great game, and I think he's going to have to be a lot better going forward for them to win this series.
Yeah, his half court left something to be desired, and like you said, he missed a couple easy ones. I still think he contributed, on the fast break and transition, like he usually does.
He wasn't bad.
No, he wasn't a negative on offense, and the fourth quarter and last 5 minutes was crucial. So when I say I don't think we could have went without him, I think it's mostly,
No, we couldn't have.
His right. Contribution offensively to mostly in the fourth, and then, just pushing the pace, and then defensive performance was great. Team and individual. So it was, I still think we needed him, obviously, for multiple.
For sure. I was more just meant you were talking about kind of the big four, our top 4 guys were all amazing. And I think he's the one who there's definitely room for improvement. Like Smart, Horford, and Tatum couldn't have played much better for the entire game. Brown, I think, can play a lot better.
Yeah, there's another level for Brown for sure, but his contribution was, necessary.
For sure. And then, so we touched on Tice, obviously the 5th starter, but I think, one takeaway from the series is it's going to be a lot more Derek White. I think a lot of it's dictated by the matchup, the way the Nets play, what have you, but the Celtics are going to probably have to go small. They're going to have to do it sooner than later, and it's probably going to be Horford or Tice basically playing 5 with Tatum at power forward and 2 guards on the floor is the way that this is going to go. Which, I mean, I'm fine with that. You could still argue that even at full strength, there's a lot of people who thought that the closing lineup would have Tatum at 4 with White in there for Horford. Now without Rob, I think it's kind of an even easier decision to make. And I think, that's how they closed, and it obviously worked out. But I think, like you mentioned with the bench, I think Williams and White, I think they were both great on defense. For the most part, they did what they're asked. Irving made a few tough shots over White. That's going to happen, but I didn't think he really did anything wrong. I think on offense, it definitely looked like White was pressing a little bit. He had a couple brutal turnovers down the stretch, including, that one where he stepped out of bounds, trying to kind of cut under the hoop. There's another possession where it looked like he had a wide open layup and he made an extra pass out to Smart, who missed a 3, where it's like, just take the layup. So it kind of got back to that feeling of the early White when he was slumping, where it's like he almost looked afraid to shoot. We can't have that. He's been so good, even shooting the ball offensively the last 10 games. So I have really no concerns about his defense, but we need him to be the offensive player he's become and not kind of revert back to the guy who stands around and the defense isn't worried about. Having said that, we need his rim pressure. We didn't bring him to Boston to stand in the corner and be a sniper. So if he just is taking good shots and missing them, kind of like when he first got here and we thought the shot would come around, which it did, I can live with missed shots. It's just the way he's playing. He's got to stay aggressive. He's got to keep attacking the rim. Especially without Williams, we need the rim pressure that he provides is a critical element, and he's going to be playing a lot in this series. So need him to kind of pick it up offensively. And then Grant, again, his defense was awesome. Other than Tatum, I think he was the best Durant defender, and it seemed like he was really getting into him, really being physical, and it bothered KD. So hard to be more impressed with Grant on defense. But I mean, again, 0 for 4 from 3-point line is like, where it's as great as the percentage is, and he made it happen all season, shooting over 40%. But at the end of the day, if you're still going to be a little timid, you're not going to hit these open looks, then the defense isn't going to respect it. And then it's like, it doesn't really matter what the percentage is if it doesn't change the way you get guarded out there, which is something we've talked about a lot. So, he's going to play a lot of minutes like we just discussed because of how good his defense is. Got to at least be hitting those corner threes with confidence, though.
Yeah, and it's, we've kind of come to rely on him hitting, those corner threes.
Yeah,
And
it makes it all work.
He doesn't have to go like 3 for 4 every game, but, we need at least 1 or 2, I'd say. And it's not like, it's not like he's going to put up 20 and, like I said, go like, 5 for 10 from 3. And
stats don't matter.
No, it's just we need him to hit a couple so the defense respects him. And, I think he's probably done enough this year where it's like, they're not going to leave him wide open, but
they can't be in their own heads too. With guys like Grant and White are the ones who eventually the Nets just say, we're doubling Tatum and we'll let you shoot as many wide open threes as you want. They just got to keep shooting them with confidence. You can't start to overthink it. I don't want the guy standing there with no one on him, not even looking at the hoop is kind of what we can't have happen.
So, and, I think, as young as Grant is, I think he's a confident player, and I think he'll come around that.
No, I'm not worried about it. It didn't look like that was the case. It's just concerning to see an 0-4.
Yeah, I don't think an 0-4 night's gonna, turn him back into a pumpkin, and he's gonna stop shooting threes. But yeah, so I mean,
and he had a couple big plays. He made a big layup. He had a big dunk off a pump fake in the corner. So he still contributed in a lot of positive ways. I know the box score said that he was like a -17, but it was basically just, unfortunately, he was out there when the Nets made their big run and Irving went nuclear, and it makes him look bad. But I don't think that represents how he played.
Right. Yep. So, I mean, I think there's room for improvement with a couple of the bench, and, I think we'll get there probably once we start to do our game 2 analysis, what we should, where we're getting to, I think.
Yeah, we're right almost there. The one other thing I want to mention, bench related, was the one other guy who played, and that's Peyton Pritchard, who only played 8 minutes. The Celtics were -7 in that time. He made his only shot, but I'm not, kind of like Tyson, I'm just not sure how much Pritchard can play. Really changes the math defensively. He's more of a liability, as well as we've talked about how hard he works. He's just small, undersized, and not that fast. And I mean, again, I thought the first kind of quarter and a half, the Celtics did a really good job maintaining both Durant and Irving. But as soon as Smart went to the bench, Pritchard and White came in, a quick minute's communication, a step slow. before you know it, Irving has hit 3 threes and a layup, and it's like, oh. So, another thing I mentioned in the blog, I think Celtics and Ime really have to consider just matching minutes Smart for Irving. If Irving's on the floor, I think you might have to have Smart out there. I don't think he can. I mean, the White Pritchard combo defensively was not fun, and I just don't know if it's tenable. As much as Pritchard's shooting has been a kind of a boon for the Celtics down the stretch, and he's been really reliable off the bench, you might just have to scrap those minutes. I think it's gonna end up being like almost a 6-man rotation here for the Celtics, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I think that's kind of the direction things are headed.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was. That's where I was getting was 7-man rotation for until Rob's back for this series at least, because I think White in theory is a good fit for this series defensively. He's big, good, solid defender, wing defender, and he can defend guards obviously. So,
and I think if White's your smallest guy defensively, that's an advantage. Yeah. But if you've got Pritchard in there and then White's the second smallest, now it's a little bit dicey.
Well, I mean, you look at
and White's a great defender.
Pritchard played 8 minutes, and Derek White, only played 27. So, I mean, that's obviously
that'll go up.
Yeah. So, I mean, I could easily see Derek White just taking all of Pritchard's minutes.
Yeah, pretty much.
Unless something happens. But
and I think it'll be some minutes from Tice too, because I think
he'll get some minutes.
They'll go smaller more.
But I mean, if it's Tice or Pritch, I'd rather see Tice. I'd rather see Tice out there more than Pritchard. So I mean, if it's like,
I think it depends who the Nets have out there, and it depends what we need. I mean, if the Celtics just go completely stagnant on offense and need a spark, they're maybe trot Pritchard out there, see if he can hit a couple threes and bring you back to life. But I mean, obviously Tyson Pritchard couldn't be pretty more opposite in terms of what they bring. So I think it's going to be situational. But yeah, I mean, I definitely think there could come a point in the series where we need a few minutes from either of those guys or both or whatever. But I just don't think it's something you can count on. And I think kind of the way that they were being utilized down the stretch in the regular season is not at all what we should expect to see going forward. And I don't know that the Celtics can really afford to do it. Like I said, I mean, maybe if Irving rests, you take Smart out and you try to go with Pritchard until Kyrie comes back in. But we know Irving and Durant are going to play probably at least 40 minutes a night. So, it's going to be scraps after that. Now, if Pritchard's a scrappy guy, if he can come in, play 6 minutes and hit 2 threes, that could be huge. That helps us out. But yeah, I don't love having him on the court when Kyrie's out there.
No. And I mean, that's like you said, when Kyrie's out there, maybe, when Kyrie's out for, assuming he plays, 40, well, he played 42 minutes. So, I mean, maybe you bring Pritch in for, a couple minutes when Kyrie's off the, on the bench, see if he can get a couple, a spark for a couple threes or something. But yeah, other than that, I just don't think, he's really playable much this series, other than, maybe some spot minutes here and there.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of with you. All right, I think that kind of covers it from the Celtics end. Any kind of reactions to the Nets, what they did, or kind of what would you say was about what you expected?
No, I mean, I think they did pretty much what they had to do. I know, third quarter didn't look great, but I think they kind of realized that at some point Drummond wasn't a great matchup, which I think most people knew going into the series. And they realized that, So I don't know. I mean, I don't know why it took them so long to figure it out, but I think, we said before the game too, or I was saying that Claxton, I think, is probably their best bet to, muck it up a little bit on defense. And he is a good defender. And I know he was hit or miss with Tatum. He might have gotten him a couple times. Tatum overall, got what he wanted off of him, or pretty much everybody. So, but Claxton played 30 minutes, and I could see him playing even more. And offensively, he's maybe a little bit of a liability, especially free throws. But he's kind of like
So is Drummond. I mean,
well, yeah, so is Drummond too. So,
and beyond that, I don't know. Do you think they maybe dust off LaMarcus Aldridge and see if he can add anything. I mean, in theory, if Aldridge has anything left in the tank, this is probably the kind of matchup that would suit him.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that would really. I think that would kind of end up being a disaster, anyways. And I mean, he's like you said, in theory, he could provide something, but
we haven't seen it in a while.
Yeah, I think their best bet is to, I could see Claxton playing 35 minutes or, something like that.
Probably right. And I mean, I think they go small more with Bruce Brown, even though he's 6'4", almost playing a conventional center role. With kind of Durant roaming to help. I mean, especially if the Celtics aren't playing Tice, it's like the one thing is that they don't really have to worry about Horford or Grant Williams posting him up and kind of giving him work inside. I mean, Al was beasting, but I think it's kind of like, the lesser of all the evils, where the Nets are like, all right, if you're just going to post up Horford on Claxton all day, we'll live with that.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, like Claxton, like we said, he's not really like an offensive player, but he's kind of like,
he's a good screen setter. He's a good rim runner.
Yeah. And like how we use, Robert Williams at times, he can hit, he can, he'll put it back. He can get some offensive rebounds. He's a decent rebounder.
Yeah. He's kind of like a homeless man's version of Rob.
Yeah. He's a lob threat. I mean, he can get, he scored 13 points on 6 of 8, but it's not solid. Like he was backing people down or,
God, no. And the same with what I just said about the Nets. If, no matter who's guarding Claxton, if they want to throw the ball into him and try to let him create his own baskets, be my guest.
Yeah, absolutely.
The more attempts he has, the better. From a
Celtics perspective. More Claxton, less Drummond is probably what we're going to see from them. I mean, Drummond wasn't like, I don't think he was terrible, but he had times where, he was, fine, I guess.
Minus 13 and 17 minutes isn't
great. He's pretty much what we expected, but
yeah, he's Andre Drummond.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, no, for sure. Thought it was interesting too that Patty Mills basically didn't play. I mean, he played maybe 12, 14 minutes, not much.
Minutes,
it was Goran Dragic who was the
Took
guy
one shot
for them. Yeah. Right. But Dragic, that was, I guess the unexpected piece to me, it seemed like he was washed. I think he scored double digits maybe once all season, and he had 11 points in the first half. So, I mean, he was a Celtics killer in that bubble series against the Heat a few years ago. The Celtics can't let that happen. And I mean, a lot of it was kind of him. He was, like I said, kind of the first one who came in and was like, hey guys, we can abuse Tice in this pick and roll. But the Celts, they can't let that happen again. We talked about how kind of the key is not letting any of the ancillary guys get confident. They let Dragic get into a great confidence, great rhythm. Can't have that. Cannot have that. And again, need to attack him relentlessly if he's going to be in there on defense. They didn't really do that. And I think Dragic played almost 30 minutes and was a real pain in the ass out there. So that was a good find for the Nets. I don't know if that was expected and they were just kind of waiting to do that for the playoffs, and maybe that is the case. Maybe they just kind
secret
of
weapons
into it. Yeah, but I mean, that's something the Celtics can't let happen again. Seth Curry played a lot, and I thought he started out well. I think he only ended up with 9 points, and it feels like almost all of them were in the first quarter. He had got open for a few baskets right off the jump, which I'm kind of okay with. And the way, he was running through multiple screens and then settling for like a mid-range jumper. That's all right. I mean, Curry's been hurt pretty bad. He looked a lot better at the beginning of that game than he has at all down the stretch for the Nets, but I was generally fine with the way the Celtics handled him. I would like,
of his points were first quarter.
There you go. Yeah. It felt like he came out on fire, which I was like, oh no, because he was one of those kind of ancillary guys who worried me, but he did nothing after that. It was all kind of Dragic and the main two. So I was fine with whatever the Celtics did with him. But another guy who, if he's going to play 30 minutes, we should be going at him every time. And that kind of goes back to what I was saying with Jaylen Brown, which I think is largely who Curry will be on. That, like I said, I don't want the Celtics to get bogged down to isolation, but run actions at Curry. Whoever Curry's guarding, if Curry's guarding Jaylen or even Marcus, then that should be the guy setting the pick on, Tatum or whoever's the handler every play. Make Curry defend. The more you make Curry and Dragic and even Irving, all of their guards basically defend Brown and Tatum, the better.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel like the Celtics did it enough. Not that I was like disappointed overall with the Celtics approach and attack and the way they played offensively for most of the game. But that to me is if they're going to have those guys out there, especially two of them at once, or, throw Patty Mills in there, whoever it's going to be, a combination of guards, you have to attack them way more than we did.
Yeah, that's definitely, I'm sure we'll see that adjustment next game. We've had the time to look at the film, and I think, Ime and these guys are smart enough to see, they, for the things they did great, there was definitely some opportunities they did take advantage of, especially with these, these guards for Brooklyn.
Yeah, definitely. That's a key to me. If they're going to go small, we got to punish them, and they basically have no choice but to go small. So that is going to happen.
We kind of need to go small too.
So, but our small can be still a lot kind of bigger than their small, if that makes sense.
But I mean, if they
Smart
go
and
small,
White are both big, strong guards. Like if it's Marcus Smart and White matched up against like Irving and basically any of those other three guys, like that should be advantage Celtics for anyone. I mean, Smart can post up either of those guys. We didn't see much of that.
Them going small
too, like, just either
way.
We
both go small, that's advantage Boston. Is what I'm getting to. So
it should be. I mean, I think going big or small, either way, the Celtics should have the advantage, but we just have to do a better job of kind of going to those things that make it so theoretically advantageous for the Celtics.
Yes, exactly.
And I think they will. I think we're a little caught off guard by Dragic kind of looking like his old Phoenix Suns version of Dragic after basically not doing anything all season. So hopefully that's an easy adjustment and we don't see him kind of getting loose like that again. Yeah, I mean, otherwise I think it was about what you'd expect.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. All right. So, I mean, we already touched, obviously, in our breakdowns, we've talked a lot about things that we expect to change and things that need to change and what will change. But any other, I guess, expectations or adjustments for game 2 from either side that you think we'll see, that you want to see, that we haven't touched on yet?
Nothing really. I think we pretty much touched on it all. I'd like to see, like, the obvious ones are Tice probably isn't going to play as much. Pritch probably not going to play as much, if at all. And I'd like to see White out there more. And I think, if he plays more minutes, he's going to probably be more aggressive and be able to find, more of his game. And I think he has to stay aggressive. He's going to have to be aggressive and score more for us, I think, to win this series and to win the next game. Even it's just, he's a good matchup in theory. Nobody's going to shut down Kyrie, but he's probably one of our better defenders, that can guard him. And I think, I don't think Dragic is gonna have that same sort of output, but if he tries, I think White is a good good person to put on him to, especially, even early. If Dragic is gonna come out and think like, that's who he is, then we gotta at least put some pressure on him early to, get him off his stride, at the beginning of the game, just so he realizes, you're not that guy anymore, hopefully. But I think just playing less Tice, less Pritch, more Grant, more White, I think that's basically going to be the biggest adjustments for us. And as well as we did on fast breaks and transitionally, I think that's got to be even more of a emphasis. We got to put even more emphasis on that. I think, whenever every right rebound we come down with defensively, I think we should be, flying up court, because Brooklyn can't defend us when we're in transition. And that's the easiest way for us to get easy points. And I think we're going to see even more of emphasis on that.
Yeah.
And, like you said, taking advantage in the half court, taking advantage of,
Matchups.
their matchups, our matchups against their guards pretty much. And those are probably going to be the keys. And, Al and Marcus realistically probably aren't going to score 20 points a game. So we're going to need White and Grant to hit some more buckets. We need Grant to hit a couple shots from the corners, from his office, as they say. And, I think basically, I think we played the game. I think we played about as well as we could have, given how poorly Tyson Pritch matched up. It was mostly that fourth quarter, just letting them come back and take the lead. That was, if we clean that fourth quarter up, we win that game going away. And
Yeah.
I think we have the adjustments. We can make the adjustments, and they're fairly obvious. So as long as we do it and execute, and unless Brooklyn finds some Achilles heel for us, then we should be back in the driver's seat here, and hopefully make short work of the series.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm kind of with you. There's no sweeping big changes other than, I talked about maybe matching the minutes smart for Irving, but like nothing crazy, strategy wise, no schemes. Like I thought what they did was good. I liked the way we were switching. Was similar to our base defense in the regular season, but obviously some tweaks in there. Yeah, I mean, I might like to see kind of a little more trying to get through some more screens. We'll see if that's emphasized more, especially with Irving, just how it seemed like he was able to kind of get the matchups he wanted and get going there a little more than and I think any of us wanted to see. But again, we kind of talked about that's, with those two, it can happen. Just hope that they don't both completely go off at the same time, which again, I think the way we kind of kept flying at Durant, it seemed like Udoka really knew what he was doing there. I kind of loved what we were doing, really closing the lane. Like we've said, didn't let him get anything easy, whether it was Grant or Tatum guarding him, or whether it was Brown or Horford after switches, whatever. Marcus a few times. There were always guys coming at him. Never let him get into any kind of rhythm, any kind of comfort zone. Needs to keep doing that all series. And I'd like to. They're obviously different players and everything's different, but I'd like to kind of attack Irving in a similar way, which we didn't really do. I thought we'd just let him have too much space and get a little too comfortable out there, especially when anyone not named Marcus Smart was guarding him. He cooked Tatum a few times, which for as good as Tatum was on Durant, when he got switched on to Irving, it did not go that great for the Celtics, I felt like. But again, not like major adjustments anywhere other than what we've already talked about with kind of rotations and stuff like that. I think keep doing more of what you're doing on both ends and just kind of emphasize it and don't get away from it. Because like you said, we did it in the third quarter. The way the Celtics came out in the third quarter was like what we've seen in the regular season, where they just come out in the third, look like a different team, and almost ran the Nets off the floor. Like I said, we pushed the lead up to 15, and it felt for a minute like we were kind of a few possessions away from maybe turning in that game into a runaway and kind of coasting to the finish. Obviously, it didn't go that way, but just keep doing that stuff, the stuff that got us that lead. Keep playing like that, and I think we'll be all right. Like I said, the first quarter was, and really the first half was so weird, where it felt like there was almost too much juice. It felt kind of like almost like a finals game or like a March Madness game, where there's almost too much hype and buzz, and everyone has needed some time to kind of settle into the game. I don't think that'll happen again. I mean, you mentioned it with Derek White. I looked back; he hasn't played in a playoff game in 3 years, and he's only
I was
played
wondering that. Yeah,
he only has played in 2 playoff series his whole career. The first one, in 2018, he was 23. I think he got hurt. He only played in 18 minutes, so he wasn't really a part of the rotation then. The next year he made it, did play a lot more. They lost in 7 in the first round to Denver. Let's just say this series and atmosphere and intensity in his role is a little bit different than what I'm guessing a 2019 Spurs Denver series was, when he was a 24-year-old getting kind of his first real taste of playoff action. So I think it's fair to give him, at least a game there to kind of be like, whoa, make the adjustment. But yeah, I think we both expect him to be better going forward, at least on offense.
Yeah, the making it harder on Irving, which I know you said keeping maybe matching minutes with Marcus to an extent. We just gotta make it a little bit harder on him. I mean, he's awesome. I mean, he's gonna score.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like the way, it's not like we didn't try. It's just he's gonna have some games like that. So we just,
and even some of the shots he made on like Pritchard and White, it wasn't like they did anything wrong. I mean, some of those, it was like he was full sprinting in transition, pulling up at the 3-point line in their face, and they were pretty decently contesting. It's just with him,
Yeah. So, I mean, he's gonna score, but we have to make it harder on him. Durant's probably gonna score more than 23 next game. So, I mean, maybe they balance out a little bit there from, scoring perspective. I mean, honestly, like Dragic was kind of the difference.
Yeah.
Like he
kept them in it, especially in that second quarter. Felt like
he kept them in it. Yeah. I mean, he had 11 points in the first half. So, I mean,
but I think it also
9 in the second quarter
amplifies the point that for the Nets to stay with the Celtics, they're going to need someone else to step up. This game, it was Dragic who stepped up and kept them afloat. I mean, without that contribution, I'm not sure they're able to be in this game. He kept them alive, and then obviously Irving was able to go on the huge run late to get them back. But we keep saying it over and over again, but if you just shut down all those other guys, trust the defenders we have on Irving and Irving and Durant, you gotta like the Celtics' chances.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like how these top heavy all superstar teams, that's kind of how they're built. Is you have those 2 guys or 3 guys, what they're going to do pretty much, and then you need one or 2 of these ancillary players to have a good game every game or contribute somewhere in order to win. And like you said, Dragic did that. Claxton, gave them some easy buckets. But maybe Dragic next game is turns back into a pumpkin, and Seth Curry hits a few more threes. I mean, we have to make sure we can't let the ancillary players beat us. Because Irving and Durant are going to get theirs. We got to make it hard on them, but we can't let people like Dragic, do what they did. I mean, if Dragic plays like he did most of the season, first half, I mean, we probably have a 10-point lead going into the half, and then who knows what the rest of the game is like. So
yeah, I think if Jalen played well and Dragic didn't play the way he did, the Celtics could have been up big, and in that third quarter probably could have pushed it out of reach. Obviously those things didn't happen, but I think it's something to look at going forward. I'm sure Ime has looked at it plenty.
Yep. So,
probably feels like we never should have gotten into the tight game that we did.
Yeah, we definitely let it get away from us, and I think the adjustments are pretty obvious, and Ime's probably a little bit smarter than we are when it comes to basketball.
Let's
in
hope.
Theory. So
let's hope so.
I trust that he's gonna make the right adjustments.
Absolutely. No reason not to, really. So, all right, having said all that, I guess have any of your thoughts or expectations changed in terms of the series as a whole? You picked Celtics in 6. I picked Celtics in 5. Do you still feel good about that? And just beyond that prediction, the way you felt in general about the series as a whole, has anything changed?
At first, I mean, before Tatum hit that bucket, I was like, this is bad. I mean, I think if we lost, I think what I said too last time is that it might be close the first 3 or 4 games.
Yeah.
And we might go back and forth. And the reason why I had 6 was, I could see it being, 2-2. And then kind of we figure it out, make the right adjustments, and then, win the last 2. And then it's like, all right, now we figured it out and we're a better team than they are. So ultimately, I think looking at game 1, it was, pretty much exactly what we didn't want to happen, and kind of what I was hoping wouldn't happen, but could see happening, which was, them mucking it up. And, but that third quarter showed, why we're the better team and what we can do. So I think the adjustments are pretty obvious. And if we make those adjustments, I think I still think we're on track to, 6 at most. And I think I'm almost more encouraged, after the game, even though, it was almost a heartbreaker and devastating. And, I probably would have been, I would have been hitting the panic button if we lost, but
right. Well, to kind of get the monkey off your back of the blown lead and the crunch time thing in game 1. I mean, it's pretty, we all knew in the back of our minds, even the most confident Celtics fans knew, like, there's still that what happens in crunch time. So to come through and win a game in crunch time like that, which we thought would be basically the hardest thing for us to do. I mean, they got to be brimming with confidence. And, I'm not saying they're going to blow them out in game 2, but we should consider blowing them out in game 2.
we know what needs to be done now.
Yeah.
It played out. We saw what happened.
And we know that we can do it. I mean,
Yeah.
there's to actually go out and get it done, like a buzzer beater to beat the Nets in game 1, being down 1 is how could they be feeling much better about themselves?
All right. So I think, I'm equally, I'd say, as confident as I was going into it. And I still think, I think this is either a, what the series is going to be, or this is the catalyst to be like, okay, we know we can do it now. We let them kind of stay in it and get away with one, even though we pulled it out. But I think now kind of, they know, like, we're better than this team. We can make these adjustments, and let's just go out there and take care of business next few games.
Yeah. I still feel confident. I mean, like you said, when we were down 5, sitting through that timeout, I was sitting there thinking, like, why couldn't we be playing the friggin' Raptors or the Bulls? What have we done?
Yeah.
But no, like you said, to prevail after all that, and I don't want to have every game play out like that, but it's a win. A win's a win at the end of the day, to do it in that kind of fashion. And now the Nets are sitting there thinking about it and thinking, like, oh, we did all that. We came back. We did, like, there's 2 ways to look at it. You can
that was our chance.
Yeah, right. You can look at it from the Celtics perspective on a negative sense and say, oh, like, we outplayed them for 3 quarters. We had a 15-point lead, and it didn't, and we, Durant had a bad game, and we still barely won. Needed a buzzer beater just to win at home in game 1. Like, that's not great for the Celtics. Or you could look at it from the Nets perspective and say, we fought back. We came all the way back. We took the lead. We should have put them away. Irving went completely off. Jalen didn't play great. And, we blew it. We still blew a chance to win in their building. So, like I said from the start, you can kind of spin it either way, but at the end of the day, the Celtics are up 1-0. Nothing dramatic happened to be like, oh my God, we're screwed, or them. So yeah, I mean, I still think the same way as I did going in. It's just now they have to win 4 out of 6 instead of 4 out of 7, and we only have to win 3 out of 6. So there's no reason to not like our chances better. My prediction of 5 games felt a little ambitious at times, but again, if it's just winning these games, and I said my prediction, I think I said one of the first 2 games would be very close, but the Celtics will pull it out, and the other would be a blowout. So go out, and hopefully, Wednesday night is that game where everything just clicks. The Garden is unreal, and we can run them out of the gym, and then we're up 2-0 going back to Brooklyn. You'd have to feel pretty damn good. We'll see what happens tomorrow night. Obviously, a loss and going back 1-1, and I won't be feeling this good. But for one game, starting to catch my breath, starting to get ready to at least move on, because it was a lot. It was a lot to process. It was the first home court Celtics buzzer beating playoff shot ever. So
that was insane.
They've
had all the playoff
had
games.
6 all-time buzzer beaters in the playoffs, all on the road, oddly enough. So first ever. Pretty cool.
Yeah, the confidence meter in the series, I think, is going to be game to game. And
yeah,
if, like you said, if tomorrow night comes around, the Nets look good and beat us, even if they don't beat us with ease, but they come in and it's kind of a wired end to end. They just kind of play better than us. Then all of a sudden it's like, all right, maybe then the confidence meter is pointing down. So
right, but I think
it's not.
The way both of these teams are is, like, even if we were up 3-0, I would still not feel great. Like, you know what I mean? Because I could see a sweep where every game comes down to the final possession, or I could see a couple blowouts back and forth, and we go 7. Like you said, it's so game to game, but that's why ultimately getting the win is all that matters. And the score is 1-0. That's the only thing that matters. We did what we had to do, and we got to do it again on Wednesday night.
Yeah, for my health, I would say I would like to see one one comfortable win here and there.
Yeah, I don't know if my body can withstand 7 of those.
No.
So yes, like I said, Celtics, please Wednesday night, let's go out and get a nice 30-point win so that we can exhale a little bit.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah. All right. Anything else on game 1 or game 2 or Celtics and Nets in general?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we spent over an hour talking about one game, so I think we got pretty in depth there.
I honestly though feel like you could write a novel about that game. You could write a novel about the last 5 minutes. Like it's worthy of this much attention.
That's why NBA playoffs is, that's why they're so much fun.
Yeah, it's the best. I don't know how you could watch that game and not man, it kind of checked every box. And that's round 1, game 1.
Right.
Jesus.
Long way to go.
Yeah. Seriously. Wow. Yeah. So okay. So final thoughts. The one other thing we can discuss, and that is, of course, our most beloved, our most trusted son, Marcus Smart, officially named the Defensive Player of the Year. Wow, what a moment to have Gary Payton, the only other guard to win the honor, live at the Auerbach Center to surprise Marcus and present him with the trophy and the award. Very cool moment. If you haven't seen the video, go check it out. Udoka said today that he actually, at the end of their film session, he held Marcus back, told him he wanted to go over some stuff with him one-on-one. The rest of the team went out and got ready. And then you could see the moment on film where Smart comes out onto the practice court, sees everyone there, sees Gary Payton.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's just a cool moment, and you could see just kind of the pure joy. Some of those other guys, Jalen and Al, and Rob and Ime right in the middle of it all, dousing with water, going crazy. You could just see it. That's, a team that they all like each other. They were all just as happy for Marcus as he was, and Marcus was happy. I mean, this meant a lot to him, and it's well deserved. He's been through some, ups and downs, and you and I have been fighting the good fight, but there's some people, even Celtics fans, for whatever reason, who've just never warmed up to Marcus, never embraced him, and it feels good to see him get this kind of recognition on a league-wide basis. I mean, Defensive Player of the Year, that's a big deal for the whole league. And you just couldn't be happier for him, really. Happy, proud, emotional, all those things.
It's a historic moment.
It is. Only the second guard to ever win, only the second Celtic ever to win, other than KG. Yeah, just really cool.
Yeah, and hopefully maybe this is a little bit of a changing of the guard moment. No pun intended, where
right.
You see, I think a lot of people, the emphasis they're putting on Defensive Player of the Year this year was, and a lot of things you kept hearing over and over, was that it's a perimeter game now.
It is.
And there's no need for people to put a premium on, centers or big men, because it's not that centers and big men can't be great defenders, but it's not like they're the only thing. It's not like they're the only line of defense these days between a good and bad defense, because a lot of shots happen from the perimeter. And
the whole game's played out there. And even I think Peyton said it at one point a while back on his podcast when they first asked Gary about it, and he said that even when he played, he's like, he was just defending point guards. Smart defends everyone.
Right.
He's a point guard by nature, and that's what he plays on offense, but he guards whoever.
Right.
He switches everything. He's in the post. He's on the perimeter. He is, doing it all. And like you said, the game on offense is played through the perimeter. It's, Rudy Gobert, you watch him last night in the playoff series, the other team's attacking him. Teams aren't attacking Marcus Smart, no matter what. They see Rudy Gobert and they see a mismatch, and you can talk about, oh, he's so great at this and that and whatever, but when the games matter, you want a guy like Smart who can do it all on both ends. We've talked about, how he's quarterbacked this defense, all the switching, all the rotations. He's in there getting in guys' faces, yelling. He's talking so much, communicating it all. He's making it all happen, and they've had the best defense in the league, and it's not a coincidence. It's not a surprise. It's so much due to him and the way he plays, and it's 8 years of this. He's been doing it. So just great to see him get rewarded for it, basically. Well earned. Congratulations, Marcus.
Good for Marcus.
Absolutely. Good for Marcus. Good for the
Good
team.
for everyone. Good for us.
Good for us. Exactly.
Big
Pat
win
yourself on
for
the
the
back.
for the Marcus
Yeah,
fans.
I would like to think that my campaigning over the years for Marcus has in some way helped
Yes,
shift
definitely
the
contributed to the
voters' mindset.
cause.
I feel like it. All right. And I mean, hey, hopefully that's one more thing that you know, I don't know if they'll have like I'm sure they'll have some kind of trophy presentation or some acknowledgement at center court Wednesday night before the game or something.
Nice.
Get a little extra juice in the building or whatever. You know, come out of the gates flying around or whatever. So
Let's do it.
It's a pretty good 24 hours for Marcus.
Very.
All right. Well, I think that'll just about do it. Time to go break down some film, dissect some other things, really get ready for game 2, and then it'll be two more long days off before game 3 Saturday night in Brooklyn. So hopefully we'll be coming back between every game with a breakdown. I don't know if we'll have this much to talk about after every single game, but honestly, I would not be surprised at all if we do.
No.
So thanks for listening. As always, Chuddy Heads, we appreciate it. We'll be back soon. Buckle up, strap up, get ready for another war. Wednesday night.
Should've never sent him to pick up the work for. Sprayed the park and had my shit inside the car. Marcus Smart boy was shooting with a 36 on him. Said if he wasn't in a rush, they was all goners. Tank cursive on the jets, he was gonna Sean John him. They was sleeping on the guards and it dawned on.